Actually, my twin.
Okay, guys, we're going to make a start. Question and answer session.
I didn't know you were allowed to do that, actually.
Well, hello.
Hello.
And hello to Gail, who is... Where are you, Gail?
Where?
Hey, where are you? With the dog. Yeah, but whereabouts geographically? Ah, there we go. So we have a live video link till Milwaukee. This is actually a good thing. We could have, I think in a couple of years' time, we'll have like hundreds of iPads.
We're on screen now.
Are we on screen?
Yeah, you are there.
I am there.
Not yet.
Okay, what am I holding up?
It's a lobster.
Go. Yeah, so in 10 years it'll just be a room full of iPads and no one else. Anyway, so this is the Q&A session. Your time to ask questions that you think I might be able to answer about anything in the books or writing or anything, except my weight in kilos. I don't know that one. If you haven't heard that particular story, I was at a school and giving a talk, and the kids were like aged about sort of 8 or 9, something around about that age. And right at the end, the teacher said, "Well, children, I think we all ought to thank Mr. Fforde for coming over and talking to us about being a writer. But Mr. Fforde earlier said was very keen to have answer questions. Now, does anyone have any questions?" And this, you know, it's like these hands shot up. And yes, Timmy. What did I say? And he said, "What's your weight in kilos?" And I don't know what he'd been thinking of during the whole talk. Clearly nothing to do with the writing, and instead wanted to ask about my weight in kilos. The other interesting thing you get talking to kids around about that age is because they kind of think, well, what they really want to ask is how much money I make. But what happens is they've been told by their teacher, now it's very rude to ask, because they'd obviously had it before, it's very rude to ask authors or anyone how much money they make, and the children going, okay. So what they do is they ask questions which are obviously trying to find out how much money you make, but not by asking you, by saying things like, what car do you drive? How many bedrooms does your house have? It's quite sweet really, it's sort of, meta language. Anyway, so who wants to get the ball rolling?
How much money do you make?
How much money you make?
Kind of ask for that, really. Yeah. Not as much as people think. Anyway, yes.
How many bedrooms?
How many bedrooms? enough to house all my many children. Yeah. Just. Waiting kilos. I don't know.
What's weighting pounds and stone?
Oh, pounds and stone. I don't know. I think it's about 184, whatever that is. It's quite precise, isn't it?
About 3 kilos to the stone.
Precise. What do you say?
About 3 kilos to the stone.
2.2.
2.2.
Is it a litre of water? If anyone was hoping for intelligent questions, they're going to be disappointed over the next half hour.
I've got a real one for you.
Okay, go on.
Is Thursday next based on anyone that you know?
Is a good question. Is Thursday Next based on anyone I know? I suppose the answer to this is yes. I mean, it has to be really, because all characters that authors write about are kind of like amalgams of people they know. So you take like bits here and bits there and everything. But what's interesting about having Q&A sessions, and that's why I kind of like really bizarre questions, because then it actually gets me to question myself about why I did things. Because often when you're a writer, well, if in any creative endeavour, and I don't mean that just in like, you know, being an artist or whatever, because a lot of people work in business are in creative endeavours, you know, when you do things, is often that you do things like intuitively, and you have no idea why you do it. And it's only like years later someone says, why did you do that? And I go, why the hell did I do that? And then by a sort of series of sort of, you know, probing self-examination, no, that's perhaps a wrong that's a wrong choice of words. You can actually figure out how you do it. But I was asked this question about sort of 3 or 4 years after first, you know, writing about Thursday, and I kind of wasn't sure. And I was thinking, do you know, I think she's based on the sort of women aviators during the golden age of aviation. And we're talking now in the 20s. And I think she was, there was a lot of very interesting women that time, very feisty, in the sort of day when sort of, you know, feminism, even the word had not been coined. And these women did this because in a world where they were not meant to do this, and they did it not for any particular reason, or they had anything particular to prove, it's just because they wanted it, and no one was going to stand in their way. And when you think about someone like Amy Johnson, right, who one of our own homegrown aviatrix, she flew to Australia, right, in a sort of third-hand Tiger Moth, which was extremely dodgy. I mean, it was basically, okay, this is the modern equivalent, okay. You buy a Morris Minor, literally off a forecourt, and it hasn't been serviced for 30 years. It's a heap of old rubbish, and you say, I'm going to drive to Pluto. Okay, that's about the equivalent of what Amy Johnson did. And everyone kind of laughed at her and said, oh, you're nuts, you never get any further than, you know, like Croydon. And she had about 75 hours of flying, which is like nothing. These days you have to have 44 hours to have a license. So she was like under 100 hours. It's like nothing at all. And she said, no, I'm going to fly to Australia, you know, in a really typical sort of, you know, because it's there kind of way. And when she left, it was like, you know, there was like 2 friends waving a flag, you know, and sort of sniffing, and we'll never see her again. And by the time she landed in Australia, she was a star, a global star of you know, of immense proportions. Because no one had tried anything like this before, being a woman, you know, and it was just extraordinary. And it comes around, Beryl Markham is another one. She wrote, again, if you want to read a really good book, and this is like in my sort of top 10 books, it's called West with the Night. And it's by this woman called Beryl Markham, who was brought up East African in Kenya. And she was basically a horse trainer, and she ended up as a horse trainer, but she's basically, that's what she did. But she flew West with the Night, which is going from America to Britain, you know, at night, because you go west with the night. Fantastic book, you know, and it's absolutely brilliant about her, you know, being brought up. And she was obviously quite a gal. You know, she knew Dennis Finch Hatton, and just a remarkable life. So I think it was kind of that sort of, you know, rather sort of, well, I'm just going to do it. You know, no one's going to say no, and why should I even think I can't? You know, and I think it was that sort of perhaps sort of sense of purpose, and you know, well, just do it. You know, why say no? So I think it was something like that. Bessie Coleman, another famous aviatrix. That one who got lost in the Pacific. What's her name? Earhart. Sorry, yeah, Earhart. Again, you know, although she was she's an interesting one because she got sort of taken over by sort of publicity and everything like that, and she was actually trying to really sort of promoting herself almost as, you know, a female aviatrix, and she started off differently, and it was a different one. But I think that's kind of where she came. You know. and then just kind of use bits and pieces from here and there. Another question. Yes.
A lot of authors say they write about things that have happened to them, and I can see that being true for a lot of others. I can't really picture it like that, like the time we were walking around Jane Eyre and something happened. Like, is there anything that's happened to you in real life that you put into books in a form of some way?
Yeah, I mean, often. I think when you're an author, any author will, I think has a sort of, I don't know, maybe feel my kind of, I don't know, it's difficult because I've never been another type of author. But talking to other authors, I think what you do is you spend a lot of your time collecting little things that people say, and things that people say that you find interesting or amusing or something like that. And when I'm writing, and I'll be doing something and somebody's doing whatever, and I'll go, I know, I can use that little thing that happened to me 14 years ago. And that would work quite well here, and then you just use it, and there it goes. So a lot of little things that happen in my books actually did either happen to me or happen to someone else, or I heard about, or they're silly jokes that someone said, or an aside or something, or places I've been. It's complete sort of mishmash. And I often describe it as like having a sort of brain like a drift net, and you sort of catch all this stuff. A lot of it drops out, but a lot of the good stuff actually stays in there. And then you just pick through all these little things and use them, and sort of put them here, there, and everywhere. So, yeah, I mean, just bits of real life, bits of everything, whatever's happening. Yeah.
Hi, what I was wondering, obviously as a professional writer, though you love writing, also you obviously need to make money, which means sometimes you're not always perhaps writing the thing you might be planning to, like for us, a lot of people might be nice to be never on Shades of Grey, for example, earlier, and obviously that didn't happen. What I'm wondering is if you're in a situation where you're hoping perhaps doing a particular writing project, and say your publisher or your editor basically don't give you money, how do you get enthused about whatever you do end up writing?
Well, I think that the point about it is that, and this is quite interesting because there is clearly a perception amongst people who are not in the writing or professional writing industry or in the publishing industry, is that there is this sort of clash, between publishers and their editors and authors. And in fact, really, if you want to, it's in everyone's benefit to get along with your publisher/editor. So in my particular instance, we talk about stuff and we generally agree on what we think should be done. I mean, the US publishers are slightly more keen on just me writing Thursday Next because they know they can get a very quick return on that. But my UK publishers are sort of really kind of Carolyn's kind of been pressing me to do a sequel to Shades of Grey for a while, even though even though it hasn't been selling that well, because as she says, do you know series sometimes don't get going until the second book, which is just what you want to hear from an editor, So we agree about stuff, and if we disagree about stuff, then clearly something's wrong, and we'll work it out until we do agree with it. So I don't find myself in a situation where I have to sort of whip up the enthusiasm because I'm bored with doing Thursday. I just say, right, okay, another Thursday after one of our Thursdays is missing. I thought, okay, another Thursday. I was short of time, and for me it was kind of a bit easier to write about Thursday than trying to write Shades of Grey 2. I think I had 7 or 8 months to do it in, and I had to write a book in 7 or 8 months. And I thought, okay, I'll do it Thursday because I think I can sort of figure it out. And that's what I did. But going from one of our Thursdays to The Woman Who Died a Lot, it was right. Okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to put Thursday back in the real world. We want to have Landon doing something. We want the kids involved, and all of a sudden it just started sort of slotting into place. And the great thing about writing Thursday is it's a very broad canvas, and there's a lot of characters, and there's a lot of stuff I can do with it. So it's not really a worry. I think if I was made to write a book I didn't want to write, even then I'd find some way of using that don't want to write it to my benefit. And within about a month I'd actually be having more fun writing the book I don't want to write than the ones I do want to write. So I try to sort of develop what I'm doing to actually make it enjoyable and make it fun.
Very naughty secondary question when I shut up.
Oh, go on.
Oh, go on, come on.
That's in my weights and kilos.
Okay, now what I'm wondering, why do you believe the Thursday Next book is saying, is it the character, is it the genre, or a mix? Because I'm wondering, because one way might be to keep figures and going is to see how much different things you can be doing with each book. Play around with the genres, set in Swindon, set in the book world, and have a, in a sense, make it different as long as it's got Thursday Next in it. Do you think it's Thursday Next per se that is a selling point? And that beyond that, you really could have a lot of freedom about what we do within each book.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, you guys probably answer that question better. You know, why you buy the book, why you buy the next in the series. You know, I don't know what the appeal is. I think the appeal is that I think I have a silly sense of humour, and I think a lot of people share in that silly sense of humour. And I think, you know, it's like connecting with someone across the dinner table or whatever. You know, all of a sudden you go, oh yeah, no, you're totally on my wavelength. And I think what's quite nice, certainly from my point of view, is how these people who share the silly sense of humour can be such a broad range of ages, interests, professions, everywhere. There isn't a typical Jasper Fforde reader. Everybody seems to be doing very different things, and there's absolutely sort of nothing really typical I can find, except that people have a silly sense of humour and enjoy the book. But I don't really know why people like them. I just think it's just an odd mishmash, and it's unusual, and it's not like your run-of-the-mill books. So I think, but I'm not sure. You guys have better idea. I just write what amuses me, you know, and hope that someone else finds it funny too. Yeah.
Do you know what happens at the end of the book before you start, or do you sort of make it up as you go along?
No, I totally make it up as I go along. Because people have often said to me, they said, Jasper, you know, I started reading whatever, Shades of Grey, or one of my other books, and I had no idea how it was going to end up. I just had no idea where it was going. I go, neither did I. And they go, yes, of course you did. I go, no, I didn't. I didn't know why at all. Or someone says, in the air affair, they said, oh, I love that whole, you know, return, not the changing the end, but there's a kind of bizarre return where she has to, she changes the ending, and then Jane Eyre comes back to help her change her ending and, you know, give her a happy ending, so all that stuff. And they said, oh, that's brilliant, so that was all planned. And I go, no, that was quite near the end. Often you can have really good ideas right at the end of the book, and you go, oh, look, actually, no, this would be a much better way to change it. And of course, the wonderful thing is you just go back and just rechange it and rejiggle it, and it looks like it was there all along. You know, but in fact, it went in there very much in the last knocking. I think the end of Shades of Grey, I kind of vaguely knew where it was going, but wasn't sure. But in the end, that seemed to make sense and a good way to make it end. But I wasn't really sure where it was going at all. But no, I absolutely make it up as I go along. And I think if I could plan my books out, then I could write them much quicker. Although, having said that, I do write them in 6 months, which is pretty fast anyway. So I try to do a plan every now and again. Just doesn't work. Doesn't work at all. I just prefer to just start writing, you know, and literally, as you guys heard, that chapter at the beginning of Woman Who Died a Lot, they're in a Skyrail carriage going into Swindon to visit TK Maxx to see if they can find out where Aeolus is. And that's pretty much how it started. You just get 2 people, put them on a train, and what are they going in to do? Why? Okay. What are their children up to? Okay. What are they going to... And it all just sort of fits into place. And I've never written in any other way. And I'll just sort of vaguely mention, I do talk about my narrative dare way of writing, where I often think of these sort of narrative dares to give myself, you know, tricky things to play with, and how I can, you know, make it work. One of the obvious ones I use for an example quite a lot is one of the narrative dares in, I think, First Among Sequels was I wanted, because I had a grunty teenager at the time, not different, I have a grunty teenager at the moment, but not, that's another one. Actually, the other one's gone out, another one's gone in, you know. And I wanted a grunty teenager who saved the world by doing nothing, right? Nothing at all. You know, and I thought this would appeal to parents of grunty teenagers, you know, there was some sort of hope there. And that's what I did. But that was very much a sort of narrative dare. And I often put those in my books as well. Say, right, try and deal with this problem. And often when you have a dare like that you're not allowed to let yourself off the hook, you can use a lot of ingenuity to make it try and work within the narrative as a whole. And that's actually great fun. It's a sort of like narrative gymnastics to make it all sort of fit together. You know, it's like having jigsaw pieces that are a bit elasticated, you know, sort of squeeze it together. Well, sometimes, but not. I only get into a corner because it's gone boring. That's the corners that I write into, and I go, what is going on here? Nothing. I've written an entire chapter and nothing happens. So boring, you know, delete. It has to go somewhere. You know, everything has to progress the story. And if it doesn't, it's basically just waffle. You know, so most if you read a book, a chapter, you know, there are things that definitely happen in that chapter. And if it isn't there, then something has to go. But if it's something I enjoy writing, then I use it and make it sort of shorter. And it's kind of a gag on its own, but it kind of fits in the whole thing, like the Rage Counselling section in Wuthering Heights. You know, it's such a great idea. You know, I loved it, but it doesn't really progress the plot. But it's short enough that I can kind of get away with it as a little sort of, you know, just a little sort of scene.
So organically, how much do you end up deleting?
Well, I delete less and less as I do it more and more, because I get hopefully slightly better, or maybe more efficient perhaps at writing. I think I have a dump file. What I do, I mean, when I'm writing, every morning I save yesterday's file and then start a new file with a new date on it, and then I put it into an old file that I call archaeology. Right. So in the end, I have a folder inside my folder in my TN7 folder that is full of I think The Woman Who Died a Lot took 103 days to write over about 6 months or whatever. So I can see where I went with this. But at the same time also I have what's called dump file, and then if I'm deleting a paragraph or something, then I just cut it out and then I'll put it in the dump file just in case I need it later, because it was good after all, I could use it, or there was a sentence that I remember using. And those dump files, you know, typically it could be 60,000, 70,000 words in the old days, but now they might be like 15,000 words or so. And the dump file for Quiet Beast, I think was like less than 5,000 words. So that was quite efficient. Nearly everything went into it, but I had a pretty clear idea of where it was going. But hopefully, you know, I get a bit more efficient at writing and I can write a bit quicker. But yeah, yes.
Now that you've got so many books in the first and next series, how are you keeping track of the relationships and the combinations, and comparisons, and everything you can do? I'm imagining a enormous spreadsheet.
Yeah, you would be imagining. The difficulty about writing series books is, of course, you have to know what's going on, and you have to be consistent. I have them all as PDFs, so because often things change right up until the last moment. So if I look at my last manuscript that I gave to my publishers, it actually might be slightly wrong because I change names sometimes at a very late date. So I have them all as PDFs, so I can do word searches and I can find exactly, you know, who is mentioned where. So that is quite useful. But in the main, and I was talking about this earlier to somebody, is that because I got now to a point where I can't reread them all every time I write a new Thursday book. You know, I'd have to read 8 now to write the next one. So in fact, the last 2 Thursday books have really been kind of standalone Thursday books. So especially with one of our Thursdays missing, that was kind of actually a kind of standalone Thursday, and it didn't really rely on me having to have read all the previous 6 or 7, which is kind of a sneaky trick for me. And the one I'm working on now is really all the premier characters within the book, and I kind of have a very good idea of what they've been up to. But even then, sometimes I have to do a word search for Tuesday or Friday, and then look at all the references back to see who was interested in what in the old days. And that's quite useful. And the great thing about PDFs is if you open all 6, they basically open into one file, and if you do a word search for one, they come up how many in each book, and then you can just pop one to the other and click, 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 and see where they are. Helps a great deal. Yeah, I mean, if I was to, I think they're becoming more specific, shall we say, the Thursday books, and that's perhaps one of the reasons why. But it's not. I don't think there are any words for it. Perhaps I think they work quite well. But certainly, I've really enjoyed writing the latest one. Just a sort of family domestic drama, but in a kind of next to kind of way. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Sorry.
Have we seen the end of Jack Spratt?
Have we seen the end of Jack Spratt? I think you probably have, to be honest, and there's a very good reason for that. Is that popular culture has now taken over, has caught up, shall we say, with Jack Spratt, and we've done that, and the world has done that. I wrote Jack Spratt originally in '93, '94, when there had been this sort of retelling in a modern setting. It had been done, but sort of not in a very, very mainstream way. And I kind of did that, and now that Shrek is there, and we've got Mirror Mirror now, We've got Snow White is coming up again, and it looked really good from the trailer. And I think, do you know, it's kind of, if I brought out a third, it would probably have something like, I don't know, Little Red Riding Hood in it. And it would be, you know, Jasper Q&A writes, retells Little Red Riding Hood, and everyone go, yeah, kind of, it's been done. So I think, you know, it's kind of, the idea's dead, it's kind of out. And I could do another one, and it would be quite interesting, because I'd obviously have to avoid all those sort of things, but then that's kind of not what Jack Sprat was about. So, but I was very glad that, you know, I managed to sneak in there early to you know, really sort of plant my flag and say, no, look at the copyright notice, you know, this is when it came out. So, and no one's really done the Three Bears as I do them. But they, I can reveal that DreamWorks optioned the fourth bear. And yeah, it didn't come to anything. They held on to the option for about, I think, about 18 months. And we think, reading between the lines, is that they had stuff for Puss in Boots. They wanted the rights to both books. And we think they had things in Puss in Boots, which has Humpty Dumpty as a character. And I think they might have wanted to use some ideas from my books which might have been actionable. So we got a feeling they were actually just ring-fencing it, and they'd option it, and then if they did use those ideas, then they could just say they could just buy it to mine for ideas and never make it. So actually, it was kind of glad that I didn't sell it. But in the end, there was nothing actionable in Puss in Boots, and it was kind of fine. Actually, it was quite fun, quite silly, really. So yeah, but they did, but they didn't make it, and you know, and the option is still free. But again, now I don't think anyone would make it because it's been done. You know, so that's why. There you go. But it's still there in print for everyone to love and adore and read again and again and again. Yes, at the back.
Who are your favourite authors?
Oh, who are my favourite authors? Oh, that's a hard one. I don't know. I mean, I have a very eclectic taste in authors, and I read anything that's good, which is kind of bizarre, really. I think really what I've been trying to do with the whole Thursday series is trying to get away from the notion of genre, or even from following a particular genre, because I've never understood that someone follows science fiction, you know, rigorously, only follows science fiction, or someone who just does fantasy. And I think, you know, why would you just do fantasy when there's so many other really good stories to be told in all the different genres? So I think one of the reasons that the Thursday series looks like an iPod set on shuffle is because that's the way I think, and that's the way I enjoy watching, you know, plays, movies, music. It's all very eclectic. It's all stuff that I just like. You know, it's fun and interesting, and it works. You know, I really like it. So my sort of interests can really range, you know, all over the place when it comes to anything, basically. So there's no particular author who springs to mind. And also, as an interesting sort of aside, the one sort of, there are very few downsides of being an author. There are lots of upsides, but one of the very few downsides is that I read less and less for pleasure. Because I have to read quite a lot for research, and when I've been sort of writing all day, I'm kind of not really wanting, because when you're writing, you're actually reading as well, because you're constantly going back and reading it, and I kind of don't really do it for pleasure anymore, which is kind of, I think, one of the big downsides. But when I sort of go on holiday, on the sort of rare occasions we finally managed to go on holiday, didn't manage to this year. Well, I did go on holiday, yes, a little up there. Yeah. I did go on holiday, but I had to take the manuscript with me. So we were in Spain, and I was in the bedroom finishing the book, so it didn't go down too well. Sorry about that. But when I did actually take a stack of books with me, because I thought I'd be able to read, because reading on holiday is great, because I don't have anything else to do. If I had a holiday, I'm sure I'd read more. I don't do holidays really very well. It's kind of too busy. So, you know, sadly, I don't have much time, really. Yes.
Do you really enjoy writing your asides with there's a few
Asides?
yeah, so like, yeah, no, not that. and that kind of thing. So it's kind of like a, you know.
Textual sieves.
Yes.
Yeah, they're never fully explained.
Never fully explained.
And now the joke is that they're never explained.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but it's kind of like almost, and you when you read into it, you
Yeah, I
process
think so.
a little bit. And I just get the feeling that when we're trying to, it's a little June, and I think that it's much more fun to write that.
It is good fun because it's really, I mean, acknowledging obviously the presence of readers that I didn't do before, because now I know I have people who read me. So yeah, I often do a side. I think there's a very obvious fourth wall pushing in. Where is it? I think it's in the Fourth Bear.
Fourth Bear with Threshold Guardians.
Was it Threshold Guard? It might be Threshold. No, there was about Pippa picked a pet. Yeah, and that's and then so I don't know how he gets away with it.
Yes.
And that's it. And that's very much a sort of hi, I know you're there. Hi, I'm here. Hi, Mum. Yeah, there's a little pack up. Yeah, and it is. It's a kind of I don't know. You kind of think, well, books are odd things, and one could talk, for a long time about how books work and why books work, and the very fact that we're human, we have shared experiences. It's a form of kind of telepathy, really, the whole reading and writing thing. And in a way, it's a kind of a dialogue. Even now, it's kind of a dialogue, even though I'm actually talking to you and you're not talking back at this precise moment. It is still a kind of dialogue. And I like to think that books are a kind of dialogue. And that also that when you read a book, it's very much yours as well. Because people say things to me about the books, and I go, well, I didn't kind of think that. But once it's gone from me, that's it. It's no longer mine. Once you read it, it's kind of yours. It's partially yours. And I think that doing this, it's part of that kind of dialogue with the reader and an engagement, that you're not just, but perhaps my readers aren't passive sort of observers, sitting in a cinema, which I think is a very undialogue-y thing. But books are different from that. I think you just get a little bit more, and it's my way of saying, no, this is a dialogue, and you're engaged. And I find things funny, and these are funny, and you perhaps find them funny, and this is why this book is fun and enjoyable. So yeah, there is. I think so. I think it's worth it. Thank you for noticing. Good. Right, so let's go back. Let's go right at the back first. Yes. Yes, you.
So you said right at the back.
No, well, you are kind of right at the back.
Sorry. It's a bit dog with a bone, but you said you took a stack of books to Spain and you didn't read them. So what was in the stack?
Oh, I don't know. Do you remember that?
They were the science books for the.
Oh yeah, that's right. It was actually some books I had to read because I'm on judging panels for books now. Isn't that grown up? I felt so excited. I said yes, 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 like this, and then someone.
They sent 110.
Yeah. and then somebody else said, yeah. Oh, would you judge this one? And I went, oh yes, I'd love to. And of course, then you realise that you have to read.
And it was about quantum mechanics.
Yeah. And they're brilliant. Yeah, science books. They're absolutely brilliant. So I did actually have a stack of those that I had to.
And the Welsh Book Prize.
And the Welsh Book Prize, Welsh Book of the Year Prize, 2013.
Yep.
So English language one. So it's strange actually because now I've been an author for 11 years. Is it 2001? Yeah, well 12 years. That's what we say since I stopped work in my other job. I've kind of entered. You start off as the new kid on the block. And you get invited to everything, all the
promising
festivals.
Newcomer.
Yeah, the newcomer. You go on sort of breakfast news, on the BBC, this, that, and the other. Everyone sort of wants to. And then that kind of interest kind of tails off a bit, especially as I do series books, which don't actually sit in any particular genre. And a lot of festivals, specific festivals, don't invite me because they don't kind of think I'm part of them. When in fact I'm part of everything, but in fact they don't think, well, it's not really actually fantasy, it's more sci-fi. So you find these sort of things tailing off, and then people start thinking, oh, Jasper's been writing for a while, he must know he must know what's what. Let's ask him to be on panels and things. So that's where I'm in my career now. And if I'm still writing in 10 years, it'll be veteran author Jasper Fforde. And it's got nothing to do about whether they've read my books. It's just the fact that I've been there in the marketplace for specific amounts of time. So it's actually quite amusing to see. But it's very flattering to be asked to go on, August panels, of book judges and things. So with all these very smart people. So It's great fun.
You were with it, was it the lady?
Oh, I
who's
can't
an
possibly say. I can't possibly say who's on the camera. It's all a bit secret.
Is it secret?
Yeah, it is. Tell us afterwards. It's fine.
Ask me afterwards.
Yeah, I'll ask Mary afterwards. Anyway, we have some more questions.
Should we take just one question?
Well, yes. You getting all this, Gail?
Yes.
Okay. Still there. Do you have a question?
I want to know if you have any word goals that you set for yourself. So many words a day, or so many pages, or anything like that.
Good question. Okay, the answer is yes, I do. I've sort of gone over this maybe a bit. You've heard me talking about this, but I have two sorts of days. I have what I call my scribblage day, which means that I actually just have to get the words down on the page, because it's much easier to work with a book when you've got words to work with rather than having a blank page. Right? It would seem obvious, but you know. So when I've actually got a scribblage day on, then I really have to get down. You know, sometimes I say I've got to get 3,000 words down, minimum 2,000 words every single day. When I've got my other sort of day is a combing day, when I'm combing through the prose and trying to make it, you know, combing out the knots like that. Then the word count doesn't matter. But when I'm actually trying to get that wodge of text up to a usable 70,000 or 80,000 words that I know is heading towards a book, then yeah, it's got to be like a minimum of 2,000 words. And sometimes I set myself even higher goals, because I've been spending the last 3 days not doing very much at all. So yeah, definitely do goals. Wordage mostly, but it's very important to get that. And I do keep an eye on that wordage. And often I find myself, you know, wanting to sort of up the wordage so it looks like I'm making progress. And then once I get to the point where I'm actually starting to go through the book and comb all this stuff out and really start to make it work and move things around, because there's a lot of moving around like that all over the place. You take this chapter, put it there, that's it. And then I find I've got like 115,000 words, and then I go, I must get rid of some. And then I sort of work through it and actually try and lose 10,000 words. And it's surprisingly easy. It's actually quite easy to lose lots of words, and you just look at big paragraphs and go, okay, that just looks a bit wrong. Just looking at literally how the page looks, if I've got an entire page without any dialogue, I'm going, okay, that's actually too much. And I'll either break it up with a line of dialogue in the middle, or in fact I'll just remove some of the description, which I felt doesn't need to be there. So yeah, I spend a lot of time adding words, and then an equal amount of time trying to get rid of them. But both enjoyable. Yeah. Good. Thank you, Gail.
Thanks.
Right, is that us?
Thank you,
Oh,
yeah,
good.
because we're moving on to comment.
The what? Oh, right.